my WhatsApp.
Okay, yeah, we can share. We can see your PowerPoints.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, there we go. So you know this part that I'm from Shoreline. Shoreline, we'll talk more details about location. This is who I am. I have two roles at Shoreline. I'm an academic advisor, and that's my main role. I am the person that helps the students find their classes, register for classes, find their major, find everything, their universities they want to apply for, editing their personal statements, applying for the colleges, helping them with culture shock even, and various details. So my role is big. And then I also international outreach representative. And actually, I'll be in Indonesia in a couple weeks for a very short time. But I travel to Indonesia about 3 times a year. So Shoreline has approximately 700 international students from around 64, I think it's a little less than that, countries, about 5,000 overall total population. So we're pretty small. Indonesian students are around 100. It's a very popular destination for Indonesian students. And I think in Indonesia, if it's popular, they want to go where the popular place is. They want to be where everyone else is. And our students from Indonesia have been very successful. They've transferred to Berkeley, to UCLA, all of the University of California schools, NYU, let's see where else, Cornell. Only one student has ever transferred to Cornell, but she was from Indonesia. Texas, all over the United States. It's not just a Washington transfer thing. They can transfer anywhere. This is our staff. We have quite a large staff. It's one office with all of the different services. We call it wraparound service, all in the same office. So the immigration and the advising and the activities, admissions, everything is in the same office, in the same room. So we can help students more easily. And it's kind of in some ways, it's like a soft step to college and getting them to adjust to American lifestyle and culture and the US educational system. These are our student leaders. I showed the staff already, but the student leaders, this is a great opportunity for students. We have a lot of different engagement activities and opportunities. These are international student leaders. That's the title actually, and international student ambassadors, a very selective position. And they also get paid for that position, about 17 US dollars per hour. And so the students can really help their parents with the cost, defray the cost a little bit. There's always students from Indonesia on this. Indonesian students are the most active, and they're the most willing to jump in the fire, if you will, to try to learn things. And so Joan, David, let's see if I can find the other students from Indonesia. Bella, Ella, that's funny. Jesslyn. So for now, every year we have at least 2. Oops. This is not. There we go. This is just a little bit more about where they're from, and it kind of shows the different countries. The international student ambassadors are helping students before they come. So if you have a student that wants to ask an ambassador questions, or the student wants to ask, what's it really like as a student, and what's it really like as, in the classes, in the dorm, in the host family, what's it like? They can reach out to me and I can connect them to Juan. Juan is our Indonesian representative for the ambassadors. And then the international student leaders are helping more with programming and connecting American students with the international students. And then both teams work together to plan orientation. So one of the other things that's very different about Shoreline is our academic advising. We are faculty academic advisors. Most of us have tenure, which means we never leave, and we have a lot of experience. So we have probably, I think we added the other day, over 100 years of experience combined. So when someone has a question, we go to the other advisor and usually somebody knows the answer without even having to look it up on the web. But we are there. Students will have an assigned advisor. Every student has one. There's about 250 students to one advisor, something like that. Actually, it's less than that. My math isn't very good because if we have 705 advisors, whatever that figures out to, less than 200. We are there to help them, like I said before. Transfer is the biggest focus. The students come to us for transfer appointments. And then their new student appointment is planning. We make a 2-year plan for every student, all the classes that they need for their associate's degree, prerequisites for their major for a few different schools because they're different at every school. And that's why it's important to have good advisors. And then also high school completion. And we'll talk a little bit more about high school completion a little bit later. But usually we have all 3 of those requirements in the plan. And basically, we are there to help the students be successful. So we might tell them, that's not a very good teacher. We might tell them that this is a better teacher and you'll probably be more successful in this class, or wait till next quarter because it's going to be a better experience for you. Let's see, we have drop-in advising every day. So students can drop in if they have a question, but we also have appointments as well. And lots of academic workshops, Transfer 101, Transfer 102, things that help students plan for their transfer resources. We want to help train the students to be more independent, to be able to find things on by themselves and give them the tools that they need to be successful when they get to the university, because it's a little bit more difficult there as far as navigating systems. So I'm going to switch over to things that students need to do before they come. So if they've already applied and have been admitted, I'll go backwards and I'll talk about the other part of the process too. These are things that they will need to watch for. We have something called early access enrollment, where students can come about a month before classes start. They come on Zoom. And they can learn about, like, it's a mini orientation. They can learn about Shoreline and about what classes that they will be taking. And then they have the advantage of registering for their classes early or enrolling for their classes early. And they can do this if they are English exempt, they meet our English proficiency levels. And then if they take the math placement test, then they can be enrolled in classes early. Otherwise, students will do it at the orientation. And actually that's what we did today. We are in the middle of our spring quarter orientation. Our orientation is mandatory. Students need to come and plan to attend the whole time, not go on a trip or go somewhere else. When they get there, we want them to be there to get ready, buy the things that they need, the different books or whatever it happens to be, make friends, build a support network. It's very important. And during the orientation, like I said, if they didn't do early access, they will do an enrollment appointment. And then about 3 weeks before they get there, this is not a thing to do before they come. This should be after arrival, is the new student appointment, probably 3rd week or 4th week of the quarter, depending on which quarter. In the fall quarter, we have a lot of new students. Sometimes it's a little bit later. Sorry. Other reminders, these are things, and I already sent this to Susan, so she could probably send this out. You don't need all the details of these things, but I think the main thing that students need to know is to check their spam. There are some forms that students have to fill out, and hopefully they can do it all on their own. But some students, as you know, you're all counselors. As you know, some students need more help than other students do. But definitely check the spam, because somehow our email always goes to the spam folder at first, at least. So the way the educational system works, these here credits were a quarter system actually. 1 credit equals 1 hour. And most students take 15 credits per quarter. So that means 3 classes. Usually when Indonesian students see their schedule and they have only 3 classes in a day or 2 classes on Tuesday and 1 class on Wednesday, they're shocked because they're taking in high school 6 or 7 classes, sometimes more. And a good selling point for this is your opportunity to have a little bit less stress, to be able to be successful, to go to a world-class university, and to be able to take a little bit of a break, actually, and still have a great education. We do have more time on homework than we do in class. We usually say it's about 2 hours of homework per day per class. That's not always true. It depends on what class it is. If it's calculus, they might have more. If it's drama, they might have less, right? Depends on what and drama at Shoreline seems to be very famous. It's an easy class to get a 4.0 if they participate and attend every time they can. And it builds confidence in speaking English in front of other people. And so it's a great starter class for the first quarter. Students always ask, is there another one? And there's not. There's only one class like that that's kind of easy. That's a good introduction to the US. And then the quarter system is every 3 months. So the students will take their first 3 classes and then they'll start over again in the second quarter and third quarter, etc. So how do students choose their first quarter classes? Almost everyone is transferring to a 4-year university. I haven't met very many Indonesian students who are not. Although we do have some nursing students recently. After COVID, nursing became more popular, and that's a complicated conversation, but there are 2 ways to go. There's a 2+2 nursing program, which is very selective, very competitive, and difficult to get into. More than computer science, it's probably the most competitive major. And we also have a Shoreline nursing program, which is one of the top programs in the state. And that would only be an associate's. They can do a Bachelor of Science in Nursing for 1 year after they finish the Shoreline program. So it's actually a great opportunity. And then the other classes, the other things we have to consider. So for your transfer, high school completion, if they're doing that, and sometimes they're not doing transfer, but that's not very common for Indonesian students. So the first 2 years are just basically more that wide view of the US education. Major prerequisites, and then at the second 2 years would be the focus. This is what our degree plan looks like. This is an Associate of Arts, which is the degree that we use for most majors, including computer science and business, which are probably the top 2 majors for Indonesian students. And as you can see, students have to take a variety of different kinds of classes. So, they're an art major, they have to take science. Or if they're a business major, they might have to take art. So they're having to take a wide view, kind of a generalist, if you will. And all degrees have the core education classes, English, math, and we have a state of Washington requirement, a multicultural requirement, diversity requirement. So this is a different one. This is Associate of Science Track 1. This is for science majors, pre-med, pre-dental, any of the science, food science type majors. And then engineering, which is also very popular for Indonesian students. This would be electrical and computer engineering or computer engineering, any mechanical, any of the types of engineering. So I talked earlier about the new student appointment. This is what we do at the new student appointment. We put all of the classes into the grid and fit it to the students' English level and math, and everything goes in here. And this is very valuable to the students because they look at it and they decide which classes they're going to take based on the plan. And then they don't miss classes. All of the choices are listed here for each of the areas. It gives you a general idea, humanities, science, and social science. And the students get an electronic copy of this and they can edit it at home. We keep a file on campus in our share drive. Students typically for first quarter take math, English +1. And a lot of times it is drama. Not everybody can take drama. There's not enough space for everybody. But if they're an engineering major, they might not be able to because there are more prerequisites for engineering. So they're probably taking math, English, and something like chemistry. If they are a business major, it's very general. Computer science also is very general at first. Just the engineering has to really, and maybe the pre-science majors have to really dive into those classes. High school. So the top diagram is the traditional path. Go to high school, do 2 years at the community college, and then transfer to the university. So basically 4 years of college. The high school completion is different at Shoreline than of some of the other community colleges in Washington. Students will finish their high school in their first year, not their second year. And finishing in their first year is very important because if they finish in their second year, that means that they have to apply as a freshman. And we don't want them to apply as a freshman. That's part of the reason they're doing transfer admissions. Transfer admissions is much higher acceptance rate. So we want to make sure that they finish in the first year. So they would so the classes overlap. We call them dual enrollment. So for example, English 101, which is an academic English class, will count for high school and for the associate's degree. And most of the classes are like that. Then the second year is just focusing on the prerequisites and finishing up the degree. We also have the opportunity for students to take the GED. It is quite popular for Indonesian students because it's just a test. They don't have to take a class. It's a lot less expensive. And our campus does offer it for international students. The last one, if a student really can't get their act together and do the first year for high school completion, that happens sometimes. They can do what's called an automatic high school diploma. And they're automatically granted a high school diploma if they graduate with an associate's. The dangerous thing about this is they might not be able to apply as a transfer student. And if they've already applied for universities, they might be denied because they used the wrong application. So I don't always tell students about this one. I think it's kind of dangerous. It takes a lot of extra explaining why they don't want to wait till the last minute. The learning platform we use is Canvas. Students, nothing is paper and pencil anymore. Although actually last week there was a paper and pencil economics test, which surprised me a lot. I haven't seen one of those for years, but everything's uploaded into the Canvas system. And some of the assignments are there, even if they're going to in-person or hybrid classes. A lot of resources for student right on our website, finding classes, their email appointment systems, and our enrollment system called CTC Link. We do have EAP or bridge classes. In general, most Indonesian students do not need to take any EAP, which is English for academic purposes. They will go directly to academic English, which is English 101, and that's required for the degree. If they don't have the right, I think the next slide is, if they don't have the right score for that, they can take the placement test. But I always recommend students to take the Duolingo. Duolingo is, it's quick results. It's only an hour test. They can take it online from home. And Indonesian students do very well on this test. And so they have a much better chance of not doing any of this and going right to their academic coursework. But if they really, really don't want to take these tests, they can take a placement test at Shoreline. And if they don't like the results, they can also take a challenge test a couple days later. to try to get a better score. And believe me, if they need English, they need English. I used to be an English teacher, and if you don't have a solid foundation, they're not going to do well in class. So if you recognize that maybe they don't have that foundation, you can tell them the placement test probably places them a little bit more conservatively, and probably they can study a little bit more English. We have a test called the Alex test, and this is one of the things that I have counselors call and ask me about. It's kind of complicated, and so students have trouble kind of navigating this path, and they have to do it before they come, or at least start it before they come to the US. They pay $20 for 5 tests. The first test is a practice test, and then there are 4 proctored tests. So they take the practice test and it gives learning modules so students can learn. After they take the proctor test, they decide if it's the right score or if they need to take it again. So they can take it twice in 1 quarter. They can take it the next quarter. If they're still not satisfied, they can take 2 more tests the following quarter. Some students actually do that. They study in between. They don't like their second test. The next quarter, they try again and try to get a better score. But usually by the time they're waiting and they're not in the math class, it's better just to get, in my opinion, just to get them in math. This is our math sequencing. I would say that most Indonesian students are following this green path, even for business, because most students are interested in the UC system. They want to go to University of California in one of the schools as one of their choices. They have to choose a variety of schools to apply for transfer. University of Washington is almost always on the list, and UC is almost always on the list. The University of California doesn't actually have business that our students can transfer into. So that means they have to really kind of apply for a major that's not what they want. They can apply for business economics or economics, and they need more math for economics, usually the whole calculus series. Engineering is all of this line and around the end. But I would say that to be safe, most of the students are just following this line because that's the most frequent. If they're an art major, though, or if they're an education major, or maybe even communications, they might not have to take very many math classes. They can take some of these, the first level of college level math classes. Housing and living, we do have a fairly new dormitory on campus. It was built in 2019. So it opened right before the pandemic. And so it's still really new because people moved out and weren't living in it during the pandemic. So it's still really new and it looks pretty and clean inside. It's a shared living space, basically. There's a kitchen and common area for each suite, as we call it. And there are different variations in how the situations they can live in. It's up to 5 students in 1 suite, but it can be 2 students in a suite with 2 bathrooms. So the private ones are more expensive. So a lot of our students want that, but don't want that because of the price. Another favorite picture here is this picture. I think you can see me circling where the bus is. Our building, our office building, the International Education Department, is that shorter building right next to the dorm. So they can just jump out and come over and get help with something if they need something. Our building also has all of the common areas for the student activities, and coffee machine and a grab and go lunch area. And also it shows that the bus is right there and it comes right to campus. We have a pretty good transportation system. There is a light rail now that comes to Shoreline. It comes all the way to Shoreline and they can take a free shuttle to get to Shoreline. Oh, I guess the homestay is up here. We also have homestay options for students, but I will tell you that most Indonesian students don't choose homestay. They'd rather be in the dorm, but if they're not 17, you have to be 17 to live in the dorm. That is an option, but a lot of our students are choosing house share. There seem to be at least a few houses owned by Indonesian families around the campus, where students live together and 5, 6, 7 students live together. Sometimes there's an Indonesian host mom, and I am not exactly sure how to connect with those houses, but I think through our Indonesian students probably is the best way, and I can connect you if you need that connection. Well, this is just about packing. I'm going to skip it. Although it's cold. When Indonesian students come, they say it's cold. And it rains a lot and it's gray a lot. But when it's nice, it's beautiful. There are a lot more inches of rain in Jakarta than there are in Seattle. It's just misty most of the time. Yeah, and this is common sense. These are more packing lists you can use later if you need them. Different things that they need to bring. One of the things that surprises students if they live in the dorm is there's a bed, but there is no bedding. There are no blankets. If they have a flight where they arrive at nighttime, they need to plan ahead so they have something warm to sleep with. They won't have a pillow or anything like that. And we have lots of suggestions for those. This is the campus bookstore where they can order ahead and have it delivered. These are some other options of ordering it and having it delivered. It's not supposed to be delivered before they arrive, but most of these companies, you can set the delivery date to the date that they're arriving so that they'll have it. There are also shuttles at the dorm where they'll take students to different stores and to help the students get ready to move in. Food on campus, we have what's called Avanti Market, has all kinds of like typical American food, which our students are not too keen about, sandwiches and that kind of food. But we also have food trucks on campus. There are usually 2 food trucks Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they rotate. So we have a variety of different food trucks. There's even one that's an Indonesian food truck, which is maybe if they're homesick for the food is okay. It's not as good as Indonesia, but it's kind of a nice pinch hit for a little bit. So 2 times a week now, and starting next quarter, 3 times a week. So students have a lot of variety to choose from. And I personally think this is better than a cafeteria. Someday we'll go back to having a cafeteria, but I think that the food trucks, the students enjoy that more. Better food. We also have a lot of grocery stores around. Asian Food Center is very popular. They sell Indomie, so of course all the students know that they sell Indomie and they can go find it. And lots of grocery stores that there are shuttles to from the residence hall. Airport and immigration is very simple in Seattle. They just have to make sure they have their I-20 and their passport. They pick up their baggage first, and then they go to immigration, and it's one stop. It's immigration and customs all at the same interview and very quick to get through. Sometimes though, at the beginning of a quarter, because we have a lot of international students in the Seattle area and a lot of colleges, it gets pretty crowded. But it is easy. And I feel like the immigration officers in Seattle are pretty nice. They're pretty kind. So that makes it a little bit easier for our students. Here's some information about getting to campus. You can give this to your students. I would say airport pickup. We have airport pickup twice in the fall, and the other quarters just once. But I would say besides that, probably Uber is the most common, but it's quite expensive. It's like around $100. So they can take the train, but they're exhausted after the 24 hours or whatever it is that they have to get. I mean, that it takes to get here. So Lyft tends to be a little bit less expensive, but there are options. This one is the best if they can come on our airport pickup day. It's only $40 what we charge. This is a campus map, kind of an overview of the campus. This is the dormitory. This is where International Education Department is. We have a large gym and fitness center, and library is here. Lots of laboratories and science buildings on the other side, and we have a theater. We have a really good drama department. Oh, and the art building is here. You guys know this. I want to tell you more about Shoreline. So, so I skip it. Lure Mark is our insurance. All students are required to have Lure Mark insurance. It's close to $400 now per quarter. So it's not that expensive compared to what American citizens pay. It's a lot less. This covers all preventative care. It does not cover eye care or dental care, but it's very convenient, and there are a couple different doctor's offices there at walking distance from the campus that they can use this insurance. And Lure Mark is the I can't remember the umbrella carrier or whatever it's called. Aetna is actually, what's it called? Sorry. Insurance is not my thing. Anyway, the insurance company is Aetna, it's called. So this is kind of a little bit more about location and Orca cards. It used to be that if you were any age between probably 16 and 20, that you could ride the buses for free, because they didn't ask for ID, but they're starting to ask for ID next week. So students will have to pay for their bus fares if they are over 18. A lot of our students are not 18 yet, so they ride for free. And that includes the light rail, the buses, even the ferries. It covers everything. For those students who are over 18, they can buy what's called an Orca card. And we have a discount for students. They can buy it for $100 and they get $200 worth of fares. So it's a pretty good deal. And apparently I'm old fashioned. My student told me the other day, Cynthia, nobody uses the card. It's on your phone, like duh. So the students are always good about telling us those things, right? So it can be on the phone. Cell phones, when students arrive, we have free SIM cards for all of the students, so they can use those cards, but they're obligated to pay. I think it's 1 month, and it's very inexpensive. It's like $19.99. So that means that everybody can have a SIM card. They can call their parents as soon as they get there, that their parents don't have to worry about it. But I do hear that students, after a couple months, it doesn't have as much data that they want, and they're switching to these other companies. T-Mobile seems to be the most popular because it has what's called an international plan. So when they go back to Indonesia, they can actually use T-Mobile in Indonesia, and unlimited texting and data, but the phone calls you have to pay for. So like 25 cents a minute or something. That's what I use, and it works really well, especially in Jakarta. Some of the outlying cities not as well. It doesn't, somehow my T-Mobile doesn't work very well in Surabaya. I have no idea why, but. Getting involved on campus, we have at least 30 clubs. We have a very active student government. Students can start a club if they don't find a club that they like. Associated Student Government this year, the president is from Hong Kong. Often international students are the president of our student government, and they are the ones that are the most involved. Also on-campus employment, most often our tutors, the best tutors at math are Indonesian, and sometimes even at English. So they're the ones that are getting involved and helping the American students. This is part of our orientation. It's part of our, this is called the Seattle tour. It's usually the last day of orientation. After learning all of the things, it's a great way to bond with other students, and we take them on the actual city buses. So they learn how to get to Seattle by themselves. So it's a teaching moment as well, so that they can do it on their own later. Admissions and payments. QR code that you could use for them to apply. When you help a student apply, actually the student has to do it, but they can write, or you should remind them to write yes education on there, to make sure that the commission goes to you. And these are the things that they need, and it's relatively simple. There's no SAT score. It's open access. So that means anyone can come to Shoreline as long as they are 16. They are allowed to come to Shoreline. Just an online application, an application fee of $50, the passport, the transcripts, and then this is the hardest part. It's a financial statement, getting a bank statement, but I don't even think that's very difficult, right? Compared to SAT scores and essays and all of the things that you need for freshman university applications. And this is on the website. It gives all of the steps, very easy to follow steps and how to apply. Students have to pay tuition on their first day of class. They can't pay before they come because they have to be enrolled in classes before they know how much it's going to be, because each class has slightly different fees. Math classes are always $5. Who knows why it's $5? Because that doesn't pay for anything anymore. But sometimes art classes will have a larger fee. And so after they enroll for classes, then they can pay. And the most common is a credit card. I would recommend that. It's the lowest fee. I don't recommend cash because students, it's just not safe. I feel like students could lose it, or who knows, put it somewhere, hopefully never be stolen, but it doesn't feel very safe. And then Flywire it's a wiring system where students can wire it from Indonesia, but there's a fee. And so my students tell me, oh, Cynthia, just do the credit cards. It's cheaper. So. This is a calendar with important dates, and we have them on our website for next year already. But this is important for the students the most because it shows the last day of final exams. The parents like this the best too. The last day of final exams and the first day of the next quarter, and how much vacation time that they have. So they're able to see that on this, as well as the academic deadlines. We have 100% refund for a certain period of time, and then a 50% refund for the next period of time. And so everything, all of the academic details are on this calendar. Know about transfer. Our most popular majors, I think I mentioned already: engineering, computer science, science majors, and business probably. And transfer process, 2 + 2 sounds easy. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's very complex, and it's based on the same things or similar things to freshman admission, but there are not as many students applying, so that they have a little bit better chance to get in some of those top universities. And those decisions are based on their grades mostly. That's the biggest piece. University of Washington says it's holistic. The course selection and the prerequisites are very important. At UW, if you don't have the prerequisites, you can't get in. Same with the University of California system, which is why it's so important to have an advisor to help you get exactly the right prerequisites. And then there's a personal statement, an essay, and those essays are very similar to the freshman type essays, and activities or engagement, being involved in school and showing that they've done some kind of leadership or community service, or different types of activities. We have a transfer fair twice a year. where we have about 75 universities that come to the cafeteria and talk about their schools, talk about whether they have scholarships, etc. There's also virtual transfer fairs and NACAC, National Association of College Admissions Counselors, is very popular. There's a big one in Seattle for both transfer students and freshmen, so they can go and get some of the more really top schools there. Strategies. I don't think I need, you can see this in the PowerPoint probably. OPT, Indonesian students tend to not do OPT after their associate's degree, but I've had some students do that. Students are allowed 1 year of OPT per level. OPT means optional practical training, and it's permission from the government to work for 1 year. And a lot of students will do it after their bachelor's degree, but not their associate's degree. But if they need to, they can do 2 years. If they do 1 year at the associate's level, that's fine. They can do another year at the bachelor's level. And as many Indonesian students are, they're STEM majors, and they can apply for what's called a 2-year STEM extension. So a total of 3 years after the bachelor's. And they could technically do 4 years of working if they did 1 year in between. I think the Indonesian clock goes faster than any clock I've known in my life. Students want to get to the university and get out as fast as they can. There's some transfer success stories. Students have transferred everywhere. I think I've mentioned most of these already. Indiana University is popular for business, NYU engineering, UT Austin is really good school. A lot of these students got into various different schools, so they didn't go to the school they're wearing the shirt for because they got into all the schools they applied for. And more different schools. University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign is very popular. Minnesota, of course, all the other ones at Purdue that I've mentioned. Our students have transferred to over 200 different universities, so the options are pretty big. And here's some samples you can use with the parents if you want. Choose business and did OPT at Amazon. This was a student, one of our student government presidents went to University of Illinois for food science. And we have more of those if you want more. I would highly recommend that students join our Instagram and follow along with kind of the activities that are happening on campus, the academic workshops that are happening. We're not really on Facebook anymore. There's not a lot there. Some of the parents are, but the students are definitely not on Facebook anymore. And if you have questions, you can always connect with me. This is my WhatsApp QR code. So feel free to connect with me.
Thank you,
Nice.
Cynthia, for a very detailed presentation. You got into like through steps by steps, even like the subjects and how to apply and etc. Okay, so well, I think we already have one questions in the chat box, which is from Mr. Wirya. He said, for homestay, student can apply through Shoreline or they have to apply to a homestay agency.
Good question. Thank you for asking. We hire professional homestay organizations because there's a lot of risk having a homestay organization within our college. And so we have professionals do it for us. And we have, in the slide earlier, I think I can close out this slide. We have 3 organizations that we partner with. We have made sure that they're good organizations and, I don't know, verified they're good placements. Abode is our most popular one. And somewhere up here. Intercultural Homestays and Homestay USA International. So I think that answers the question maybe.
Mm. I think pretty much it answers the questions. And relating to that, if I might add, if the counselors having an under 18 students, for some other countries, they need like guardians, they have to pay like some extra fees and etc. Can you please explain more what's happening if they're under 18 and studying at Shoreline? What do they need to prepare?
So usually just having their I-20 and the bank statement is enough to open a bank account. Once they have a bank account, they're able to, for example, rent an apartment, although most parents don't want them to rent an apartment until the second year. But a lot of parents actually come with their children and help them rent the apartment with, they need a signature. But students don't really have trouble because most of the Indonesian students do house share, I think. Um, or sometimes their parents just go buy a house.
Okay, so if their parents are not going with them, they can stay on campus, right?
They can as long as they're 17 or older. Usually for the younger kids, it's better at first for them to be in a house share with an Indonesian host mom or a homestay, I think.
Okay, that's great. Great to know. And I think we have one more question is, okay, I have a student who is interested to become a doctor. What major would you advise to take and what are the university options like after 2 years at Shoreline?
Good question. That's like a good interview test question for somebody applying as an advisor. Usually for pre-med, biochemistry or biology are probably the two most common. Although they don't technically have to follow that, it's the best path for them. They usually have to finish all four sequences, five if you count calculus, physics, chemistry, organic chemistry, and biology. As far as applying to medical school, so it's 8 years. It's 2 years at Shoreline, 2 years at the university, and then 4 years in medical school. And the issue with pre-med is that not all universities will accept international students because it has to do with immigration. If the hospital is actually considered on campus, then it's possible to do the residency after they graduate. But if it's not considered on campus, they can't work off campus. And so then they can't do the residency in the US. It tends to be more, I mean, if you Google or medical schools that accept international students, there are a bunch of lists out there. Private schools tend to be the most common. The University of Washington does not accept medical students, but they accept dental students, which is kind of unusual, but not medical. I think in general, the big public universities don't take international students and the smaller private ones do.
Okay, I hope that answers the questions, but feel free to type more questions if you still have more following questions after that. And we have another question, which is, do UG students start working already? If yes, where?
So in the US, the students cannot work off campus. They can only work on campus because of the visa. So we have, like I mentioned earlier, tutoring jobs, student leadership jobs, even the associate student government positions. Some of them are paid. We also have students that work in the library and sometimes around campus as office assistants, and all of them are minimum wage, which is I think it's around $17, but I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And wait. Okay, there's one more question here, which is how long the student can work on campus in a week?
Meaning per week, how many hours per week they can
Yes,
work?
do they have like any limitation on how many hours that the student can take?
Yeah, the limit is 19 hours a week. Most student positions are not that many hours though. It's usually 15, and we would discourage them even if they could, to not do that, because we want them to get engaged in activities and leadership so they can get into the universities.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully that answers the questions. And okay, there's one question that is said, will it affect my visa application if I don't have any English test result yet? Because you mentioned earlier that the student can apply without having an English result, such as Duolingo, IELTS, or another official test. Will it affect the visa application? Like, is it mentioned in the I-20 or something else?
Good question. It's a little tricky. It used to be no problem at all, but I feel like the political environment right now is changing, and we had students in Hong Kong be denied for the first time ever, pre-visa interviews, because it said language learning. So Indonesian students, if they can, I really highly recommend that they do Duolingo just to not take that risk. But it can affect it. I don't, it's not supposed to. They say it's not supposed to, but it makes me worried after seeing it, a country like Indonesia and Hong Kong, where it's always, I feel like it's always 100%, everybody gets their visa. Suddenly not be able to makes me nervous. So I would say take the Duolingo if they can. Probably they're going to pass it anyway. It's only 95. But it could affect. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's better to have an English test before. Yeah, okay. That's great. Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
I,
yeah. Oh, we have following questions. Are there many vacancies in campus? I think it's related to the on-campus part-time work.
I didn't hear you cut out a little bit, the first part of the question.
Oh yeah, are there many vacancies in campus?
Ah,
Like a job vacancy.
there are definitely not enough to go around, but the students who really want to work are working. So the ones that are really diligent and are looking, we have a career center where they can go to where the career center can help them figure out where the on-campus jobs are located, and how to apply. Students who really want to work can work. Students who kind of half-heartedly look are the ones that are not getting the jobs. The ones who are really serious about it are able to.
Okay, thank you. And I think this is the following questions for related to the medical students. They're asking about what are the private universities that you know if that accepts Indo students to study medical?
You know what? I don't have that list in my head. That's one that I don't. We have not had students do that because they get discouraged by the time they get to their sophomore year, and they give up and they change their major to something like food science or biomedical engineering, other majors that are not pre-med. Nursing actually is kind of taken over a little bit because nursing is a great profession in the US. They have pretty high salaries, and if they get their Bachelor of Science in Nursing after they finish the Shoreline program, we have guaranteed admission to the University of Washington Bothell, which is one of the branch campuses. There's a chance that they could be sponsored. And so a lot of students will do that instead of medical.
Okay, thank you. So I think this is the last question because of our time limit. This one is asking, hi Cynthia, just curious with international students taking community college. Is it quite common if the student is in the beginning plan to choose 2+2 to transfer, but in the end they complete the degree with the college? Usually, what was the reason?
Well, that's a good question. It does not happen very often. They have so much support at Shoreline, but I would say they're usually not Indonesian students to begin with. But we do have some other populations that it's more common where they will get about halfway through and think, I can't financially do this anymore, or I can't be successful in my classes. And so they can get a 2-year degree. They might have to stay longer at Shoreline to get their degree because the classes are different. The transferable classes are different than the professional technical classes. So it depends on when they switch over. I think that
Um,
answers the question, but it's not very
yeah,
common.
yeah, yeah. I think that answers pretty much well. Oh, well, unfortunately, our time is up. I think we
No.
need more time in future.
Yeah, I think we could use a lot more time. I will say just one more little thing. I think
Yeah, sure.
Shoreline, I didn't talk about the location enough. And Shoreline is it's the best of two worlds. It's in a safe environment, safe location, but it's close enough to Seattle so they can easily get to Seattle and be entertained by, professional sports games and downtown and an urban area, but it's close and so it's far enough away so it's safe.
Yeah, that's nice to hear because Seattle has been like popular for Indonesian students so far. Yeah.
And
So
Permius is really big there.
yeah.
It's a big chapter.
Yeah, yeah. So I think if you send students to Shoreline, you don't have to worry because environment is pretty safe and the college is very supportive to international students. So I think with that, we conclude our webinar today. Thank you so much, Cindy,
Thank
for your
you.
time. And for everyone who's attending this webinar, we will send out a copy of the presentation and we will you can see the recording in the attachment as well. You can re-watch it again if you want to get details into what subjects, what credits to use, what kind of
All the details, sorry.
yeah, it's actually very good, to prepare with the technical details. If
Mm,
they have students already or they have like prospective students to talk to, like the details about the transportation, about the SIM card and I think that's what the parents gonna need to know, right?
yeah, that's right.
It's very
Definitely.
important. Yeah. Okay, so I think thank you everyone for joining and some of you might be your last working day in the between this Ramadan month. So thank you so much for joining session and see you on the next session. Bye bye.
All right, bye. Thank you, everyone.